We've seen the shift as Gen Z. From a simpler childhood, a simpler world, to a fully digitalized age. Gen Z, we care more about being true to ourselves, the environment, and ethics. Unlike past generations, like millennials, who often followed a very set path, where everyone was told to follow a social construct, where you're told from the moment you're born, study hard, go to university, become a doctor, become an engineer, start your company, become a tech worker, work a 9 to 5, get married, and have kids by 25. I think Gen Z likes to challenge the status quo. We're more open about careers. Most people want to start their own thing, or maybe they might choose a more unconventional path. We also seem to question more things instead of blindly follow what society says is good for us. But I think a very large majority, I don't speak for everyone, but I think Gen Z generally struggles with judgment. We care too much about what other people think, especially with the rise of social media and the internet. I think Gen Z should learn to take breaks from the online world, and we should learn to nuance our ambition with maybe some more grounded realism. But at the end of the day, I think it's good to try and chase big dreams, but in the process, you should have a little bit of pragmatism as well.
Today's episode is truly special one. I am speaking with someone who is just 14, yet his depth of knowledge is truly beyond his years. At just 14, he has traveled to over 20 countries, lived across continents, and developed a keen interest in subjects like history, geography, politics, and philosophy. Not just from textbook, but out of real curiosity. This is not just a conversation with a student. It's a chance to see the world through fresh, thoughtful eyes. Let's explore what life looks like through the eyes of Generation Alpha, or maybe Generation Z. Let's begin with something light. How old are you, and which year are you in at school?
First of all, it's an honor to be here. I'm 14 years old, and I'm turning 15 in a few months. Right now, I'm in year 10, and I'm preparing for my GCSEs next year.
What generation do you think you belong to?
That's interesting, because I'm actually something called a cusper. Someone born between the boundaries of two different generations and is supposed to share traits from both of them. I was born in 2010, so that makes me either Gen Alpha or Generation Z. But I personally relate more to Gen Z because of my upbringing, the mindset Gen Z has, the humor, and the social life. It just feels more like me. So that's why I identify more as a Gen Z than Gen Alpha.
Param, you have lived and traveled so many countries across Europe, North America, then
Asia and Oceania.
did it change the way you see the world?
It's been eye-opening. The world is a place full of beautiful diversity, culture, beliefs, as well as lifestyles. It taught me how to respect differences and encouraged me to be more open-minded. I've also learned that there is no one right way to live, as everyone has their own path in life. That's exactly what makes the world so exciting. And seeing how different civilizations function and evolve is just the most fascinating thing to me.
You have experienced life both in East and West, of two very different ways of living and thinking. From your perspective, what can these two worlds learn from each other?
I think the West places a lot of value
Yes.
on individualism and personal freedoms, which causes people to innovate.
Yes.
It pushes for more self-expression, and it advocates for the protection of individual rights. However, I think the East often teaches more about community, family, respect for tradition, and pushes for discipline. I think a mix of these two ideas would make a very ideal society.
Teens today feel stressed. School, social media, the future. What helps you to stay focused?
We do get a lot of pressure from exams, social media, and general expectations when you grow up. For me, I've learned to stay grounded while keeping perspective. Whenever something feels overwhelming, I ask myself this: will this matter in 5 years' time? Or will this have an effect on my life whatsoever? I also find it useful to break things down. Big goals can be stressful, but small steps aren't. And I try to make time for myself, whether it's playing video games, taking a walk, or just thinking. Sometimes taking a seat and letting yourself relax helps most.
Param, what sparked your interest in humanities? Could you share a powerful lesson from each?
Sure, I think that these subjects help you understand how the world works, and quite frankly, that's invaluable. History shows us how we got here, why countries exist the way they do, how cultures evolve, and why empires rise and fall. And you'll see that often conflicts in our time, modern day, have roots from the past. Once somebody asked me this, if you don't know where you came from, how will you know where you're going? For geography, it's always been one of my greatest strengths. It's like a superpower, burning the location of every last corner of the earth into the back of your head, knowing where things are without ever needing a map. The use cases of geography can even bleed into history and even politics. This is because geography plays a huge role in how cultures from different countries develop in relation to their surroundings. When it comes to philosophy, I think it should be pretty natural to ask these big questions, like why life is the way it is, or why certain things should be the way they are. It's about trying to understand right from wrong and going beyond the conventional things that you're told and fed. I think it helps you figure out who you really are, because instead of going along with other people's ideas, you challenge conventional beliefs and you think for yourself. I think that's the closest we can get to any type of relative truth or enlightenment. Now, adding on to this, I think politics is more like a real-life application of philosophy. There are so many political views across the entire spectrum, but most of them do have one common goal of trying to achieve a better world, whether it's done one way or the other. I enjoy questioning decisions made for the good of the public and seeing different perspectives on other people and what they think of it as well. I just find it very liberating to discuss new ideas and see what's good for a society. Open discussion is always very good to have.
Imagine you had a time machine and could bring back one person. Who would you choose? And what would you ask them?
I'd say Nikola Tesla. He was definitely a genius, far ahead of his time, but he often got overshadowed by bigger names in the West, like Albert Einstein, all these great people. Now, I'd love to know what he thought, what drove him, what his passion was, and what kept him going, despite not getting the recognition he deserves. I think his life teaches us that not all great minds get appreciated or get the rewards that they desire, but that shouldn't make their work any less valued.
Do you have any funny story to tell us?
One thing that I find really funny in this country are the accents. There's such a huge diversity of accents in this country. So me and my dad, we were walking down the streets of central London, City of London, Westminster, right?
Yeah.
We see a couple of teenagers. They've got this really interesting accent where they're skipping the words. Like, oh, could I please have a bowl of water? And then, and we were like, okay, that's probably how they speak around here. Then we went into a tea shop, right? And there was this really fancy guy, right?
Yes.
And my dad went in, he ordered a black coffee, right? And the waiter, he had the poshest accent I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He spoke like this. Hello, good sir. Welcome to my shop. Would you like some good tea, please? It's one country, England. Not the United Kingdom as a whole, but in England, they're all supposed to speak English.
Yes.
But the ways they speak it,
Yes.
it's so diverse. They could be considered different languages, because I don't think someone who can barely speak the language saying bowl of water compared to someone who's so fancy, who's so posh, and speaks like a Victorian man from 250 years ago at a tea shop.
Any other funny incident you have here?
There's one phenomena that this country does very different. We all know those skinny fried potatoes, French fries, right? Everywhere else in the world, we call them French fries. In this country, they call them chips. Should I explain the history of why French fries are called fries?
Yes.
Originally, it's much debated, but the word fries came from the word frites. It was a Belgian-French invention, and it started out as pommes frites in French, which means fried potato.
Yes.
If you walk into McDonald's and you say, can I please have some fries, please? Maybe they might understand, because it's an American company. But if you ask the normal British person, oh, could I have some fries, please. Don't make fun of you. Because it just doesn't exist in the usual vocabulary. So yeah, that's one of the differences in this country, which I find amusing.
When you think about your future, not what others expect, but what you truly want, what's your personal goal that lights you up inside?
My aspirations for this is actually a bit boring, a bit more typical. I really want to get into a top-level university, a Russell Group university or an Ivy League, like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, the typical stuff, right? I'm hoping that getting into these top-level institutions will give me the opportunity to innovate and make a change in this world. For example, I do have this quirky idea. What if we made a machine that recycles household and business waste into renewable energy? Because waste is a big problem, especially in countries like the Middle East where they don't have proper pipelines. I've also got ideas of how we could make people live longer and live healthier lives. Another goal that's really personal to me is that I want to revolutionize and create workspaces that feel like communities, not just a boring old workplace where you go do your 9 to 5. I believe that people are a lot more creative. As a result of that, more productive when they're heard, valued, and given the attention that they need. But in the end, whatever path I do take, all I want is to be able to make a positive difference in the world.
If you could invent one school subject that every student should learn, what would it be?
I've actually thought of that. I would probably create a subject called Modern Life Skills that would mix social sciences with real-life survival. It would cover global cultures, social norms, and money basics like taxes and budgeting, as well as digital safety,
Yes.
which I think is very important in this day and age, and of course, critical thinking. My goal isn't just for students to remember facts. My goal is to let students question things, to think for themselves, and actually find who they are. It's all about getting ready for life and making smart choices, not just written exams.
All right, Param, let's wrap up. If you could take us on a virtual tour anywhere in the world, which place would it be?
Those open, massive grasslands near Astana in Kazakhstan and Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia. Imagine this: green patches of land stretching out as far as the eye can see, stretching for hundreds of miles, with soft, rolling hills everywhere. In short, they're giant, treeless meadows. The steppe in Kazakhstan is huge by itself. It's over 800,000 square kilometers. It's one of the largest uninterrupted grasslands on Earth. When you stand there, it just feels as if you're in the middle of nowhere with just the grass and the sky, where you can spot beautiful mountains off in the distance, like the Altai and the Khangai Mountains. Now, what's really special about these places are how untouched they are. No roads, no buildings, no one living there. Just pure nature. It feels peaceful and unreal. It feels like you're stepping into a totally different fantasy world. And these steppes aren't just pretty. They're full of history and culture. One good example would be the Mongols. They've lived there for centuries now, and they've connected with the land. For me, it's more like a reminder of how beautiful our planet is if you strip away all the noise, industrialization, and human errors. It's a kind of quiet beauty that's really rare nowadays.
You have reminded us that deep thinking doesn't come with age. It comes with curiosity and courage. Until next time, stay curious. Thank you, Param.
Thank you.